Good now, revolutionaries, and welcome to Rise Up After Dark. Today is Wednesday, January 28th. We are nearing the 100th episode of Rise Up After Dark. That means, really, it's like already the official 100th episode of whatever we've been doing at late at night. Can you believe that? Time is flying.
This is one of those cliched moments where I would say that it feels like we just started this, but also like we've been doing it for 25 years.
For years.
Yeah, but I think it's just because I'm aging exponentially.
Yeah.
This is a gross misrepresentation of the facts.
That could be it. I'm Evan, he's Alex, and this is the show where we DYOR, BYOB, let our hair down and talk a little smack about the crypto industry. We answer your questions and we model what it's like to wade through the space without catching any of the traps, getting stuck in any of the pitfalls, other obstacles with our expert friends and guests. So if you've got a crypto question, then please do leave it in the comments for us. It's great to see a lot of folks joining. If you're listening live, hey, how are you? Let us know. And if you're listening in the future, then hello. We hope your candles are green and that you will leave us your comments where the show lives 24/7. I'm talking about community.rumshq.com. We have got all kinds of great educational resources there for you. And if you are trying to learn about blockchain, about cryptocurrency, then the number one tip we can give you is to get into a group of friends who already use crypto, who are not going to try and sell you some junky, schemy investment. It's a trap. We want to see you there. Community.rumshq.com. The only thing missing is you. Alex, I'm going to get right into it. Tonight we have got a great guest and friend of the show. What are you smiling at? You showing behind the scenes?
The comment that said, my candles are invariably not green.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry to hear it.
Where's the
Hopefully,
sad trombone?
Yeah, exactly. We need somebody to get a little green in their lives. This will be a treat then.
Wait, time out. Before you do it, just because this is really funny. I had a moment, just speaking of candles that are accidentally green. I was tinkering with turbo stuff on DeFi Carrot the other day. Mm-hmm. And they had recently added gold as an option. They're one of the one of the gold tokenization things. Yeah, turbo gold. And I was like, you know what? I've never bought gold. Let's see how this thing goes. And I accidentally bought it 65% ago. So my first ever exposure to gold was like 60 some odd percent ago. And it's at 3x leverage. So
wow,
that feels great.
It's
nailed it.
Time to buy.
Nice job, Alex. I am going to give you a point for that.
Thank you. Okay.
And
continue.
Somebody is starting the show with a gwump. I can't remember who, but it's probably
Mex C.
Probably
When in
Mex
doubt,
C.
gwump Mex C and send it.
Okay, that gives me an opportunity before we bring in our guest to explain that if you're tuning in to Rise Up After Dark for the first time, and Azeem, backstage, check this out. Every time you hear this sound, it means that somebody who is speaking or somebody we are speaking about has gotten at least 1 point. And if you hear this sound, it means that somebody speaking or somebody we are speaking about has received a negative point. We call it a gwump. At the end of the night, if we reach an arbitrary number of points, then we will give away some goodies, probably an Arculus wallet to help somebody get cold storage, thanks to partners of the show, Arculus. And whoever gets the most points will win a fabulous prize.
I am a big fan of this.
Without further ado, I think it's time. I want to introduce you to someone who's super cool. A lot of our friends in crypto are, but this guy's a real one. His name is Azeem Khan, and he's got quite a journey to crypto. That includes med school. That includes a stint in the music industry. I would like to hear more of his Kanye stories. He has written for Forbes. He's written for CoinDesk. And I said it before, I think maybe his best accolade is that he has convinced friend of the show from Octant Mashal to be his life partner and wife. If that doesn't say everything about him, I don't know what does, but he's here tonight as our friend and the co-founder of Miden. Ladies and gentlemen, monsters and machines, please welcome Azeem Khan to Rise Up After Dark. Azeem, brother, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm so happy to be here. We've been talking about this for a while, and it's been very cool to make it happen. It's been very cool.
Yeah, for people in podcast land, speaking of very cool, who's that behind you, hanging out on the wall? It's
Mr. Rogers.
Old Fred Rogers.
We thought it was read write own a little bit. That was a this like before we begin, the reason that this thing is behind me is that a friend of mine named Taj, who's a very famous music video director, who's done like I think J-Lo's most watched video on YouTube, and like Big Sean and Rick Ross and Nicki Minaj. He's like literally worked with everyone. He ended up getting into art, like physical art, at the end of 2019. And I saw that this was one of the prints that he had done. And I said, I need one of those. I got it framed. And it was time to put it up right when COVID lockdowns were occurring in 2020.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? What better thing to put behind my camera than Mr. Rogers? Because basically anyone who knows who Mr. Rogers is has a very positive association. And then on top of it, it's especially when everyone was so glum. Obviously, COVID lockdowns were not a happy time. And then other than that, it was just like a talking point. And so, I kept it there for a bit, and it worked out so well that, we're going on 6 years that Mr. Rogers has been here helping me out.
Love it.
What a guy.
Yeah.
He had quite a life, and I remember being a child, seeing the TV for the first time, and he was one of the first adults, one of the first neighbors I met.
Yeah.
Through the TV. You're right. To be fair, at Podcast Land, we've got the book of Read, Write, Own. Chris Dixon inspired much?
Yeah.
I mean, like, replace this little red square with Mr. Rogers and his red
and
sweater.
even the red, like the red sweater. Yeah.
This is like a cubist abstract impression of that exact painting.
It truly is.
Yeah, but with Mr. Rogers, it's a cube.
I dig it.
Azeem and I, we got connected when Mashal had reached out asking after our participation in Epoch 9. She said, hey, do you ever share your experience on TikTok? My husband is interested in creating there more. And I said, oh, that's great. Who's your husband? And she said, his name is Azeem. I'll introduce the two of you. And I was like, already when I saw your picture, I was like, oh, my curly long-haired brother from another mother. And then we had heard about Miden from our friends at Polygon, partners of the show. Mm-hmm. And so had been talking about how are we going to get connected to somebody, hear what their take on privacy is, see what they're cooking. And then I found out that you were going to be in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, mm-hmm. for Dev Connect. And we got to kind of meet serendipitously there when we were hanging out with David Phelps. You were seeing him, yep. I was seeing him, and we just ran into each other, and I got to meet the whole Miden team. It was really, really nice. And just for the folks on the show.
That's so cool. It sounds so fun.
Yeah.
Why weren't you there?
I was in Georgia. Just sitting here by myself. So the context there is that I have this day job that pays the mortgage, but only for a little bit longer. And I'm walking away from it at the end of March. But unfortunately, access to time to travel has been very restricted, and I was not able to join Evan. And I just basically sat here steeping in deep, festering FOMO for weeks while that guy was living it up.
Alex is Mr. Conference.
Buenos Aires was a good time. Buenos Aires was of the conferences. It was definitely actually a good one. So
it was like a heartwarming, like
at least lie to
conference.
me a little bit, guys.
I can't. We're friends now, and lying to you would be wrong. I just
fair.
Okay.
You went from there. Maybe back to New York for a second, or did you go right away to Dubai? You were in the Emirates for a minute.
I was in New York for about a week, where we went back. We came back and we did Thanksgiving, and then left basically immediately after Thanksgiving. But I wanted to do Thanksgiving at home. It's just one of those things. And so we did Thanksgiving at home, and right after that, we flew out to the UAE for we were out there for 5 weeks. Well, I was there for 4 weeks. Mashal stayed. I had to go to a wedding in Thailand, and Mashal couldn't come because of like visa related stuff. And so I went over to the wedding and got back to New York a couple of weeks back.
I'm just curious. Do you mind sharing? I haven't gotten to ask Mashal this. How did you guys meet? Was it through crypto? Was it through philanthropy?
No. It was Clubhouse during COVID.
Really?
No shit.
Yeah, so we were both on Clubhouse super early when there was only like 2,000 people on the app. And,
Okay.
everyone was just on Clubhouse like 8, 10 hours a day. And Michelle and I became friends. They used to host Sonal, who is now I think the head of content at A16Z or something
Yeah,
like that.
she's excellent, an excellent producer. I love her
Yes.
work.
Yes. So Sonal was doing this like show that was basically about people from Southeast Asia on Saturday mornings. And I'd seen Michelle on the show. We had chatted on there. Then we became Twitter friends from there. We became WhatsApp friends after. And then in 2021, I spent a little over 2 months in the UAE because of a startup that I had back then. And when I was going, I was like, wait, I don't know anyone in the UAE. I should give Michelle a call when I was going out there. And like, just like totally as friends, like she would basically show me around. She's like, oh, you need to see the Burj Khalifa. You need to do this. So I was basically working. We were launching a token and I was working, 20 hours a day. And any moment that I wasn't working, she was like, I'm going to come show you this. And then each year I'd just been going to the UAE for work related stuff. And so we would just hang out. And it was in 2022 at one point where I was like, yo, for us to be able to hang out more easily, like, I really just need you to get into crypto because you have a media background. You have all of the skills that crypto people need. You'll get paid way more for the same exact job than you would if you were doing just straight media. Cause she's like a Forbes 30 under 30 media person.
Yeah.
And so she ended up doing DevCon Scholars when Bogota happened. And then from there, like it wasn't too much time after she was doing like different research reports and everything. And then was it 2023, she came to Singapore with me for Token 2049. And I introduced her to James, another long-haired friend of ours over at Octant. And it just worked out. But yeah, it was very random. It was completely not planned. It wasn't done as like a dating app. It was just literally friends on the other side of the world using the social media app. So when I saw Sonal for the first time in person, it was like, I don't know, like April of last year. I went to her and I was like, Sonal, I want you to know that you are indirectly the reason that I got married. And it was a very nice, like heartwarming moment.
That's incredible. I'm giving Sonal 2 points because that's just really wonderful.
It's already not looking good for me.
Yeah, I know, right?
Azeem,
Sorry,
what you
Alex.
need to know that Evan, of course, neglected from the rules of the game is that it's the most corrupt game in all of crypto, and that Evan is the centralized authority and control of most of the points distribution, and he alone decides who wins and who loses. Don't
So Evan is like CZ.
pretty much.
Exactly. And
Yep.
I am a benevolent overlord, but Alex, remarks like that will get you into trouble. So watch it.
Oh my god, I was already in trouble, and we both know it.
I haven't launched a token yet, so I will say CZ is definitely a very benevolent person as well.
That's right. CZ, we were talking about this morning. What did I say, Alex? I was like, I'd take that Binance money. And he was like, you would? And I was like, I don't know. But CZ, since we know you listen to the show,
Yes.
we love you. We hope you're well.
I mean,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
for sure.
Yeah, he's in the audience right now in the TikTok chat.
I mean, I can say that I would rather do that than take the Mexi money. So,
I don't know.
The chief strategy officer of Mexi is my former co-founder.
Is that right? She recently came to that role, like last
Yes.
year.
is that
Cecilia.
Cecilia?
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
What she seems like a really earnest person. We are good friends with the White Whale, who was in the Twitter headlines when he was trying to take them down for holding his money there, and she
Yes.
got kind of caught in the crossfire. I know a lot of people who know her personally, who seem to have a very high opinion of her. I don't know her. I take your word for it. If you'd be co-founders
she's
with
been
them,
a
she's
she's
great.
been a very polarizing person to different people that she has dealt with, is what I would honestly say. My personal interactions and engagements with her were always good. But part of that definitely could be the fact, we're equal, same footing co-founders trying to successfully take, at the time, it was, at the time, very valuable company to light, but always was very pleasant with me. But she has definitely known to be polarizing. I will not, and she would be willing to admit that as well if she was sitting here with me.
I get that sense. I get that
Yeah.
sense.
And for context and to be fair, all of my personal beef with Mexi takes place at least what
Way
2.5
before.
years before
Yeah,
she
yeah.
arrived on the scene.
Ah,
So
interesting.
Yeah, I won't bore everyone with the whole story. Long story short, I was given a grant.
story.
All of a sudden, it turned out MEXC was actually the one funding the grant. And then they basically pinned me against a wall asking for a token that I did not want to give them. And then they pulled all the funding for the grant. We went under and had to shut the whole project down after the fact. So they breached contract, but I couldn't afford a lawyer, so I just had to walk away. It was shitty.
That is shitty. That is actually very shitty.
Yeah, real shitty.
But we like Alex said, we've talked about it enough. Our big thing is we want everybody in the space to feel they have full understanding as much as possible of all the different options available. Most of the folks who watch our show are people who are learning about crypto because they want to invest in crypto or because they want to work in the industry. They want to understand what role blockchain will play in the future of the world. And many of them are 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. They're not technical people. They're very smart people. They're professional people, but they need an entry point, and it's a world where Brian Armstrong and Coinbase and CZ and MEXC have a lot more levers to pull and a lot more access to those people to tell them any kind of story they want. And we want them to understand self-custody, even if they don't use it, so on and so forth, privacy. So maybe that's as good a time as any to like bring it around. Can you talk a little about your journey to crypto? Because it's like kind of wild and wonderful, man. And I think it's such a great characteristic of like you, but also everybody that I really love in this space has brought many stories and a very interesting journey to us. I think those are my favorite people, are not just like finance bros and tech bros. There's so much more to crypto than that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also, like much of your audience, not technical. And I also, I couldn't work with an Excel spreadsheet if my life depended on it. And so I'm not a finance bro either. I've like sometimes wondered if I should like learn Excel, but now there's like Claudebot and all these things, and I feel like I don't need to anymore, right? Man, my journey in crypto is very random. I have a bachelor's in bio that I got from Boston University. And then directly after I graduated, I went into a master's program in 2010 to 2012. I did a master's thesis in human genome sequencing. And when I graduated in 2012, between then and 2013, to matriculate in 2013, I was applying to medical schools. And so I was working at a biotech company. I had my master's degrees from Boston University, but I did my master's thesis at a lab at Harvard Medical School. And while I was doing my research there, I ended up meeting a postdoc who was working on something, and he was going to be spinning it out into a company. So towards the end of my master's degree, he was like, hey, like, I know you're going to be applying to medical school. What are you going to do next? He always tried to push me to be like, Azeem, get the right kind of doctorate and come do a PhD at Harvard. And I was always like, nah, man, I want to be a physician. I was like, and so ended up joining a company that he had called AbVitro. We were doing antibody sequencing. And I was working on a tech startup part-time as well. It was an app that allowed people to license photos and videos they took on their smartphones. And I had a lot of free time. When you like do a master's degree in something like, genomics, you're always extremely busy. And then I had a job, and the job didn't keep me busy enough. And I had a startup on the side, and I still didn't feel busy enough. So I spent a bunch of time on Twitter, honestly. And, I got on Twitter in like, I don't know, 2009, 2010, something like that. Oof. And I'd seen stuff about Bitcoin, but I ended up falling into the rabbit hole of, at the time, it was just Bitcoin Twitter, really. There was no crypto Twitter. And just started meeting people. Like one of the first people I remember actually interacting with, like Ryan Selkis and things like that. And like, Nick Szabo, and reading about, it was mostly like philosophical stuff. What is decentralization versus centralization? Why are central banks bad? Like, the fall of fiat currencies, the rise of money as a whole. Like, how did we get to this place? How do we ascribe value to things? Like, it was all very philosophical, intellectual, fun stuff. And then in 2013, April of 2013, I ended up running the Boston Marathon that had the bombings. And
that was the year I moved to Boston as well, actually.
Okay. So I was living in Cambridge at the time. It was a quarter mile from where the attackers were, where they lived. I was also I was there for the Boston lockdown as well, basically that week. And so, it was a week where I had like a lot of introspection. You know, I had always sort of known I was doing medicine for the wrong reasons, but I had gone down this path and I was, you know, in debt. I still have debt because of those degrees, literally.
Yeah.
And I'm still paying off, you know, and I graduated in 2012 and I've like actually been paying my debt, you know?
Incredible.
Yeah. Exactly. And so, when all of that like went on, I sat down and I was like, you know what? I don't want to do medical school. And I'd gotten into medical school. I was going to be going to medical school in, you know, it's August of 2013. And I sat with the decision and I said, you know what? This isn't for me. I rescinded all my apps from med school. I walked into my biotech job and quit. And I was like, I'm going to go full time on this tech startup that I've been working on part time. And also, I started writing for the Huffington Post at the time. I have like no formal writing degrees or anything like that, but I submitted a piece that Ariana Huffington had asked about that was basically, you know, experiences from the Boston lockdown. And I wrote something about how I was a Pakistani American Muslim who was a victim and not a suspect. And, you know, I'm old enough to have remembered 9/11 days. And so in all the Islamophobia after that, so I was like, hey, like, let's not point fingers. Like Muslims can be victims too. And the piece went viral for what was viral back then. And they were like, hey, come write sort of whenever you want. Like here's a username and a password through the back end. And it was, you know, sitting on crypto Twitter, you know, more of that year. And it was later that year for the end of 2013, there was the New York City Bitcoin Center was opening in the financial district here in New York. And I was invited to attend the party and asked if I would be open to writing about it. So I attended, and at the time, like Bitcoin was, I don't know if it was like $500 or $700 per, and like Dogecoin was there too. You know, it was like, and I met these people who were basically buying and selling Bitcoin and Dogecoin by yelling like old school New York Stock Exchange style, like putting up bids using QR codes. Everybody was fucked up. And it was just like a New Year's party. And I remember looking around and being like, yo, so many of these people are so fucking smart. Like there's something to this that like I need to understand more because these are not just like dumb people doing this. They're extremely articulate, extremely eloquent, extremely wealthy, like people who all so fervently believe in this idea that I need to understand this more. And that's what really took me down the rabbit hole of really wanting to like understand it more and figure out what I was going to do in it. But honestly, after that, it was years of like trying to see what would happen when it would. My first attempt at a project in crypto was Kimcoin in February of 2014. I launched.
What?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, but I didn't know what I was doing. Like you had at the time, like there was no Ethereum, there was no ERC20. So you had to launch a Bitcoin fork. And so I didn't know how to do that. All right. And so I basically like made a splash page as a website and I put up a Twitter page. The Twitter page probably still exists. I don't remember what it was called.
I'm looking.
Yeah, the Twitter page. If you go to Google and you just type in Kimcoin Newsweek and like a bunch of news articles will actually come up. Like I basically like did it sort of as a joke. And then who were some of the publications that covered it? I remember it was like Newsweek was one of the ones that covered it. That one I remember very vividly. But there was a handful of other publications. It was like the Daily Dot, the Escapist, Crikey, Bitcoin News at the time, I think had covered it. And I just reached out to people basically and was like, hey, I'm launching something called Kimcoin. And this was after, I don't know if you guys remember this either, but like there was a South Park episode where Kanye didn't understand this joke about like, you know, like they were like, hey, do you like fish sticks? And then,
yes.
and then he'd be like, yeah.
Episode.
Yes, exactly.
I have not seen it.
Okay. So it's the entirety of the episode is basically like, you know, this joke that Kanye doesn't get. And they're like, hey, do you like fish sticks? And he's like, yeah. And they're like, are you a gay fish? And then he doesn't get it. Like, you know, fish sticks. And he like the entire episode is ranting like, I'm Steve Jobs. Like I'm Walt Disney. And then at the end of the episode, for some reason, he like turns into a mermaid and jumps into the ocean. And
he just puts on a sparkly unitard, jumps into the ocean. That's the end of the episode.
Yeah. And so like someone made a coin called Kanye West, and the logo for the coin was the South Park character. And so I just thought it would be funny. And I was like, yo, I'll be able to just get media attention using this. And ended up basically like putting this splash page together and like started reaching out to journalists. I had nothing else. And I got all this news coverage. But it was weird because in that process, I was like, wait, what if American Airlines had their own coin? What if the Dallas Mavericks had their own coin? Like, this would open up some really interesting opportunities. And it took me further down the rabbit hole. I got a cease and desist from the Kardashian family. I was never able to actually figure out how to launch it anyway.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yes.
That's crazy, dude.
Yes, that's it. That is it.
This is that Kimcoin Dashian on X, and I found it from a link to an article where they were talking about both Kimcoin and Kanye, which they called my beautiful dark twisted currency.
Yeah, see, joined January 2014. I tried it. It was February 2014 where we started getting media for it. And so, yeah, it was a very random thing. And then it was like, I was doing a bunch of other stuff, like, in the entertainment world, where I started interviewing hip hop artists from 2013 to 2017. And so it was like Big Sean, Bun B, Talib Kweli, T.I., Jermaine Dupri, DJ Drama, Hobson, like all these people from like my generation of hip hop.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Did you say Talib Kweli?
Yeah.
Listen is one of my favorite songs of all time.
It's an excellent one. Excellent one. Yes. I was
all right. Hold on.
Yeah.
Points.
Points.
I'm pretty sure, and it's been a really long time. I'm probably sure that I still have his phone number. Like, yeah.
How could you forget, Azeem? Clearly, you guys aren't good friends.
And Hobson, dude, another ill of mind. I mean, just like watching
all of the ill mind, all of them were amazing. Yes,
incredible.
I almost actually. So he had a business partner named Dame, and Dame and I actually started writing. It was Dame Ritter. We actually started writing a book together, and it was basically going to be how you were supposed to really like the 0 to 1 of becoming a successful artist. And so I worked with him on framing all of it. I still have it somewhere on Google Drive, and it was like literally going over like publishing, social media marketing, like everything that it takes, distribution, and we were going to release it as like an independent, the way they were as a label. And literally right when we finished the book was when him and Hobson like broke up and like they like ended the company. But yeah, this is what I mean, like super random, like have done so much random shit over the years. And it was like, I was in music and we were like building apps and websites for folks using relationships that I'd been building and a friend of mine had. And this was where it was during this St. Pablo time period when Kanye it was like 2016. And we got introduced to Kanye's team and we started building an app for him. We did stuff for Tiana Tiller, Bryson Tiller, Ray Shremmer, Dreamville Records, but it was like, I think on the episode with Jacqueline, I talked about how Kanye owes me $75,000.
Yeah.
I don't think
you didn't tell the story. I don't believe.
Okay. I don't think Kanye knows he owes me $75,000. I had met Virgil, Don C, Stephen Victor, like all of the people, Che Pope, everybody around Kanye. And I was dealing with his cousin named Ricky. And
doesn't Kanye seem like the guy who would make you deal with his cousin? Like I don't say that as a criticism, but he seems like a guy who's like, yo, this is Ricky, he's my cousin.
I know it was exactly that. And it was like, it was a fascinating time. I went backstage to the Kanye show in New York, and then afterwards we went out because I was like, yo, like how real is this? And he was like, yo, come to the show. I'm like backstage with like all these celebrities, A$AP Ferg and Angela Simmons and all these people. And then afterwards he's like, yo, let's go out. And like I ended up going partying with Travis Scott, Mike Dean, Scott Disick, like all like, and then it was like, and then we like, it was the same thing a few months later. It was like, I was in LA with them and they're like, yo, come out to the show. Went to the show. And then it was like, afterwards we went out to the club with like Trey Songz and like all of like Jordan Farmar, these other basketball players. It was like, we're in, I don't remember the name of the club anymore. It was like, it's been a long time, but like, this is what I mean. And so we were building two separate apps for Kanye, or what I was told was for Kanye. And then it was when Kanye had the meltdown in, I think it was in Seattle. And it was like when he like was talking about Jay-Z or something on stage. And then he was committed to an institution for a bit, I believe. And at that time, his team went totally dark on me. And so we had built two separate apps for them, basically, or like one app and like framework for another, and a lot of research. And we had like verbally agreed to money, and just never heard from them again. Haven't spoken to them in a decade. And so, you know, I've had a lot of people be like, you should go after him for that money. And I'm like, it's fine as a story. It just is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
a truly wild story.
I really thought at one point when you were talking about the club that at the end you were going to say, and in the morning he took us in the house and he served us pancakes. I thought that's what it was. I was like, oh, surely, you know what I mean? Okay, but come back to crypto then.
Yes.
You found your way out of there into blockchain?
So
again?
like it was just throughout that process. Like it was 2014 was Kimcoin, 2017 was like ICO stuff, and at the time I was at Rock Nation and was working with one of Jay-Z's cousins, Behi, on a gaming company called Unanimous Games. And I was the one who was getting him and all of the other executives there onto Coinbase. And I was like, buy this thing called Bitcoin, buy this thing called Ethereum, and then just like, don't look at it anymore. I was like the crazy crypto person at Rock Nation. And yeah, and so it was like during ICO season, right? It was like, you know, all these things going on. And so I was like, you know, doing buying and selling. I was like, you know, again, sitting on crypto Twitter, seeing what's going on, seeing everyone saying Lambo and Moon and all those things back then. And then the ICO stuff ended. And it was in 2019, I learned what NFTs were back when it was a company from Canada called Horizon Games, which they transitioned to something else. And actually Polygon bought their company recently for like a bunch of money, actually.
Yeah.
Sequence or something like that. But back then they were like a blockchain trading card game. And met them, they explained NFTs. I left Rock Nation to try to raise money for a crypto gaming company where I was like, I want to build Super Smash Brothers, but with rappers, basketball players, influencers, everything as NFTs. And I was like, I have all the relationships. Like Chief Keef's team had said that they would be down to get in just like through licensing fees. Lil Pump's team wanted to get in on the game. And so like I was chatting with all these folks and it was just like, yeah, let's just make like this fun fighting game. Yeah. And bro, every investor laughed at me. I like
really?
Literally everyone.
I feel like that would have gone so hard in like NFT boom.
But that was the problem. This was I don't know, fall of 2019. Again, it was like I was 10 years ahead of social tokens. I was 2 years ahead. It was pre-boom. So I had investors look at me and be like, yeah, you have to pick, like, you pick gaming or you pick crypto. Like, you can't pick both of them. And I was like, no, you don't see it. I almost became the first non-founding employee at OpenSea. But they at the time, I got through every interview. And then I got to Alex at the end, who was the CEO. And then he was like, hey, what's your software development experience like? And I was like, what? I was like, this entire time we've been talking about a BD role. And afterwards they were like, look, like, you know, at the time they'd only raised like, I don't know, $2-3 million. They were like, we can't afford to hire anyone who's not a dev. Ended up joining a game that was the precursor to Steppen. I don't know if you guys remember the Solana game, Steppen. But it was a game called Aglet. And it was, you know, Pokemon Go for sneakerheads, but with like, you know, Nike and Adidas and everything. And I came on as head of BD and like partnerships, basically. And we did deals that I did Stadium Goods, Gucci, Adidas, Puma, ended up getting cease and desist from Chanel and Nike while I was there. But like during COVID, ran it up to over 100,000 users. And the entire time I was like, guys, like this needs to be crypto. Like this is crypto. This is crypto. And I couldn't get the team to agree. And so I ended up leaving in 2021 and starting, it was basically a crowdfunding platform built on Ethereum for creators. And at the time, I was much closer to my entertainment life. So I was just like, I'm going to get advisors and everyone. I know all the people that I need to go to for this, and built this product, launched a token. We'd raised like, I don't know, like $1.5 million. This was why I was in the UAE in 2021 when I met Mashal. And it did not go as planned. I signed agreements that had no lockup period for tokens. It was a bad experience. Good learning experience. I learned how exchanges work and KOLs work and market makers and what it really takes like behind the scenes to launch tokens. And ended up leaving at the end of 2021 from that situation. And early 2022 is when I joined Gitcoin. And Gitcoin is where I think things really started to make sense for what I was doing in crypto. It was like a proper full-time job. I led BD sales and partnerships for the DAO. I first came in just helping raise money for the grants program. And then very quickly soon after, was just like doing good enough of a job that I got to oversee everything. And so I was overseeing all of the fundraising for the grants program. I was helping lead all the BD for Gitcoin Passport, got them to over 1 million users. I helped launch one of the first super chains on Optimism with the Public Goods Network. And then we had 2 protocols, one for ecosystem development and one for grant distribution. So I knew all the L1s and all the Alt L2, all the L2s, Alt L1s, everyone. And I deeply understood, like, what are you doing to build your ecosystem? How are you giving out grants? What are the things that you're doing? Yes. What a time. Gitcoin was awesome.
Yeah, talk about an education and also like a real network to build in crypto.
I have to say, I was so fortunate to end up there, because when I had first actually reached out to, it was Scott Moore, who's one of the founders of Gitcoin. I had done Kernel, which was their sort of, I think 8 or 12 week, like sort of like crypto boot camp kind of thing, right? Educational program. And I had reached out to Scott because I was like, hey, I want to raise money through Gitcoin grants for like an idea that I have. I want to do like a social impact protocol, like a social impact DeFi protocol. And we're on the call and he's like, yo, Azeem, all this sounds really interesting, but do you want to come work with us? And I was like, what? And he was like, you seem like you have like really good partnerships and sales experience, and I could really use that. So like, do you want to come work with us? And I was like, sure, let's do it. And not realizing just how big of a deal it was. I met everyone while I was there. Like literally, my network comes from the fact that like it was sort of like being in public office, where Scott was gracious enough to give me all of his contacts. And so I came in and it was just like, every important decision maker at every single protocol, venture funds, centralized exchanges. Like we did grants rounds that I led from start to finish with UNICEF, with Shell Oil, with the American Cancer Society, with Andreessen Horowitz. Like it was just like an amazing experience. And it was also super cool being in a position where we were doing so much good. Like I would raise millions of dollars on a quarterly basis that we would then distribute out to thousands of projects that were building super cool stuff. It was an awesome experience. And then it was in 2023 when I was in Singapore, the BitGet team approached me and were basically like, Azeem, we're launching an L2. We've been incubating it internally. We want to spin it out. Do you want to come join the team? And I, from the time I got to Gitcoin in 2022, started paying attention what was going on in Asia a lot for the crypto scene. So I'm one of the few Western founders who, because dating back to then, I know people at every exchange, whether it's Binance, OKX, Mexi, Gate, like literally all of them. Like I know decision makers at all of them because they've all grown from those roles and everything. Yeah. And so when BitGet approached me, I had already been a venture partner at Foresight Ventures, which is their single LP venture arm. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. Like we ended up raising $20 million. Pantera had Dragonfly led the round. Pantera was the next biggest check. Spartan Group was in there. It was awesome. And then there was just business differences between myself and some of the management that I was dealing with at BitGet, basically. So it wasn't like BitGet themselves. Hold on one second.
Take your time.
Yeah. And spent the year there. We ended up, parting ways. And that leads me to like how we got to Miden. I got introduced to the Miden team in January of 25. We chatted because 1KX had reached out, and David Phelps, actually, funny enough. David Phelps was like, Azeem, there's this team raising. I'm angel investing in them. They're amazing. They're like technical savants, but you should talk to them about like everything non-technical. And then one of the venture funds who was investing 1KX reached out as well and had a call with me. And then I met with them in Denver last year. And it was also like, Azeem, they're amazing, but like non-technical, it'd be really interesting. And so we, Bob and Dominic and I chatted and Akshat for months from January to April on a weekly basis about how I would approach all things non-technical. And funny enough, on the first call with Bob and Akshat, I had read the investment memo and I got on and I was like, I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I really appreciate this, but like, this isn't for me. I was like, this is way too smart. I was like, I'm non-technical. This is like more technical than like most technical folks understand. I have no idea what this says. And so I was like, I really appreciate it, but like, no, thank you. And like, we spent a bunch of the call of them, like trying to like console me being like, we don't need you to know the tech. We need you to sell the tech basically. And so, and for months chatted with them. I left Morph in February of 25. I announced leaving. I had been chatting with a bunch of different projects, looking at venture stuff, looking at market making, centralized exchanges. Like I was looking at like everything, but something about the Miden team, like just super hardworking, super humble, massive idea. Like if it wins, it like wins on such a large scale that it was just an enticing bet to take.
Yeah, of course. And I will vouch and say it is a super like nerdy technical idea. I was in a conversation at the coffee shop just as everybody was kind of, passing around, getting to know each other. And I was like, oh, these guys are serious technical builders.
Super serious technical builders.
Thank God for them, because I would not want to solve this problem. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. There's still aspects of our tech that like, I just don't understand yet, And it's like, maybe you're not even supposed to say that out loud as a founder, but like, while I much better understand things now, there's still things where I'm like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Okay, then can we break in with a little question? That's a great time to bring in Miden. For people who don't know and you want to play along at home, you can check them out at Miden, MIDEN.xyz or 0xMiden over on X. The branding is beautiful. And I also really like this headline here, Practical Privacy for the Future of Finance. I'm imagining that you as a storyteller and a framer have had a lot to do with how this idea is presented. So in your own words, and maybe in a way that anybody at any level of experience can understand, what is this and why might it matter?
No, totally. So to date, for the most part, there's been a binary in the way that we've seen blockchains. One is that things are completely transparent. And for the most part, that has almost been used as a good selling point of like, look, you can, prove everything. It's all publicly available. And that is until you realize that this idea of selective disclosure is very important. Or if I was to say, hey, Evan, Alex, what did you have for breakfast today? You'd be like, oh, well, I had this. And I'd go, okay, cool. And I'd say, what brand is, your hat, Evan, or your glasses, Alex? And you'd say, oh, like this. Then I go, okay, cool. What'd you eat for lunch? And then, okay, like I had this. Then I go, okay, what's your monthly salary? And you'd go, what? Well, how much money do you have in your bank? And you go, wait, like this isn't cool. I don't want to discuss this. Right. And maybe there are people you do want to discuss that with, your financial planner or your accountant, whatever. But like someone randomly just being like, going from what did you have for breakfast to how much money do you have in your bank account, you intuitively understand selective disclosure. You're sitting and going, yeah, like I am happy disclosing certain things. I'm not happy disclosing everything. And the problem that we have is if you think about the idea of blockchains becoming the global financial backbone, you simply can't do that if everything is fully public and fully available for everyone. That your net worth is there, who you've sent money to, what you're doing, like literally everything. It just doesn't work. And then there's the opposite, which has been other chains that have worked at the idea of full privacy, that no one knows anything, that these tokens just move around. And any intellectually honest person would say there's a lot of opportunity to do illicit activity on something where no one knows anything, and you can move these tokens around and there's no regulations, and market manipulation is easy. And like it unless you want to be intellectually dishonest willfully, I don't know how someone can have a conversation and go, no, like there's no chance illicit activity would happen on something where everything is 100% private.
Yeah.
And that binary has been primarily what we have been working with to date when it comes to blockchains, is that you either pick something where it's very likely that illicit activities will occur, or you pick something that would make, George Orwell in 1984 blush, basically, right? And where Miden comes in is we say, hey, we think that blockchains are better for a lot of the things that we think about in terms of financial services. But at the same time, we don't think that everything should be publicly available for everyone to see. However, we can't do this completely unchecked. There needs to be compliance standards here. There needs to be KYC. There needs to be AML. We need to accept that illicit activities that should not be occurring absolutely can happen. And we don't want the worst of people using our chain to be able to figure out how to do terrible things. And that's honestly where Miden comes in, is how do you have the idea of being able to use a blockchain that offers privacy while at the same time allows you to maintain something, knowing that compliance standards are being met, KYC is being done, AML is available. And that's basically really what we're doing. And then that's sort of where that tagline comes in, is how do you offer practical privacy for the future of finance? And that's Miden, is, and at the moment, especially in these earlier stages, we're selling it as an institutional grade blockchain, because for me, as someone who's been through multiple cycles now of what's gone on in crypto, right? From like dating back to this 2012, 2013 time, I've seen all of the ups and downs. And what I've primarily seen is that it's just unregulated gambling, skinned with new words every few years. And you're able to drive retail mania because you can show these insane profit gains that certain people are getting. And that makes other retail people who don't know what they're doing put their money in. And those people always get fleeced. And then it's just like a really well-regulated insider trading cabal where there's no regulations to say it's insider trading. I mean, when Trump launched Trumpcoin, I was supposed to, I could have been invited to that like Friday crypto ball that they had done. Yeah. And I didn't go to the crypto ball, and they launched Trumpcoin that night. It was like on a Friday night. And I watched it launch, and I saw that it was doing well, and I didn't buy intentionally. And then it was on Monday, a good friend of mine who's in the real estate business messaged me, and he was like, Azeem, I heard about Trumpcoin. I'm going to buy some. And I was like, no. I was like, the fact that it has made it to your ears means that you are exit liquidity. Yes. And I had to, and I had to explain all this to him. And yet he purchased $5,000 worth of it, and he lost almost all his money. And so, I have seen, I did an episode for Slate's podcast, even actually completely shitting on meme coins. And the idea was to launch a meme. They needed help launching a meme coin. I'd written a bunch about like what are the actual mechanics behind how meme coins work, and we ended up doing an article. And then I was like, hey guys, I want to show you something. And they had put the meme coin out. The episode was out. I tweeted about it, and people ran the meme coin up to like some large 7-figure amount. Yeah. And the Slate podcast team reached out to me and were freaking out. They're like, what is going on? And I was like, you guys wanted to know what meme coins are like. This is it. And I didn't buy any. I didn't sell any. Some people sent me free tokens. I left it in an open wallet, let it go to zero. And so much of it to me is like, I've seen every cycle of how this works with NFTs, with ICOs, with meme coins. And it's always just retail can bring things to a certain point, but the reality is that real capital is not with retail. It really lies with institutions. And if we want to create true adoption, for us, the road is that we do it through institutional adoption. If we close a handful of deals with large institutions, governments, and enterprises, that allows us to be able to bring in the amount of capital that would take, millions of individual retail users, and that we can do it in a sustainable fashion because we're using Miden as architecture for aspects of like the future of finance, and not for, just speculative gambling games. And I'm not morally against gambling. If people want to build gambling platforms on top of Miden, more power to them. Like, I actually think an interesting thing no one has built yet is like simply poker and blackjack on Miden, because you can't do poker and blackjack when there's, on a public chain. You can see what the face down cards are. On Miden, you actually could like imitate crying in the casino, like in a real way, playing casino games, right? And so like I'm waiting for a founder to come figure out how to build literally just blackjack. But that is sort of the idea for Miden, is that, that's what we're thinking, is how do you build something that does exactly that? And just yesterday, we actually announced a partnership with the largest institutional crypto custodian in the country of South Korea.
Yes.
And yeah, a company named Coda. And we have a bunch of other announcements coming out soon, because we've really been focused on just figuring out what do we need to do to actually create institutional adoption. And so as a company in testnet, we were able to find our way into a partnership already with the largest. They have over 80% of institutional custody in the country of Korea.
Wow. Excellent. That was one of the questions that rolled in earlier. Our chief fact check officer in the comments, Bearded, was asking about what this means for you, what it means for us. Alex, it sounded like you had a question though, so I'm glad to take it wherever you wanted to go.
I just realized that poker, on-chain poker, is actually kind of the perfect example to maybe help visualize the way that you guys at Miden handle ZK proofs and like a ZK rollup specifically. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm newer to the realm of trying to understand all this kind of stuff. But I'm thinking about the difference between a snark and a stark.
Oh God,
and,
I won't be able to tell you this.
Okay, then let's put this out there, and then we can ask a technical person later. But effectively, the way that I understood it was that the cool thing about so for the record, Miden uses starks instead of snarks.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And one of the big benefits of a stark over a snark, I'm not making any of this up.
Technical term.
So with a snark, there is technically a vulnerability in the beginning formation of the algorithm that protects it, wherein if someone were to not delete numbers that they're supposed to delete, you could know or retain the keys to crack an encryption there. And so theoretically you could publish bad data. And the Stark skips that at the expense of being a little bit less efficient. So the Stark can work better than at bigger scale, but it's a little bit more labor intensive to run a Stark based ZK proof or whatever at the beginning stages. That's at least how I understand it. And so specifically with the idea of a poker of a card laying face down, you would be able to say based on the fact that this was calculated or protected originally using a Stark instead of a Snark, that someone's not stacking the deck against you. And that's kind of a cool visualization.
That actually sounds right. What's interesting is we have I won't call him the architect of Starks, but Bobbin was working on early iterations of Starks at the EF before he led the ZK team at Facebook. He is truly a savant wizard of technology. And this was why when we sat down and I was just guys, ZK is the hardest thing in crypto. I am non-technical. What do you guys expect from me?
But it's so cool.
It's so cool. It is so cool. It is we did our offsite in Buenos Aires, and it was so fun to sit there and listen to everyone and go, I am by far the dumbest person in this room. I was just like, and like, not in a negative way. I was mind blown. Like they make jokes like where they're like they literally make jokes where like somehow part of the punchline is like polynomials. And I'm just like, I don't even know what a polynomial is.
Dude.
But like they're jokes that really make sense to them.
That's fun.
And
Being in a room where you realize all of a sudden that you're the dumbest one there is like probably one of my kinks.
okay, but hang on, because some people in the comments, like Carol, maybe like me, there are some people who actually know what Alex is talking about. And I responded to DeWoofy, friend of the show, who I said might be the only one in the audience who understands completely what we're talking about.
That is true.
For the uninitiated, ZK proof is what our friend and yours, I know Azeem, Evan McMullins, calls mathemagic. It is simply a way to prove something without observing it directly.
Yes.
That's why it would be great for poker, is because you want the blockchain or whoever is administrating it, whoever's participating in this network, whoever's participating in this poker game, to know, for example, that nobody is stacking the deck, that nobody is counting the cards, that there is a queen of hearts or there isn't.
But
would you add anything to that?
The specific benefit there would be here that not only is it like private from you and the other players at the table, it's also private from the dealer and the house.
Yes, it removes the need to have a mediating party, a government, a bank, a teacher, somebody with power controlling the lever who could potentially be bribed or make a sloppy mistake or lose the keys to it and expose your bank account, yada, yada.
Yeah, and put a pin in that because I'm going to come back to it from a policy side in a second because Solemn had a good question earlier.
Yes. Actually, that's kind of one of the places I wanted to take it. Unless if you have any other technical, non-technical notes, Azeem, we're happy to hear them. But if you want us to save you from that, we can switch real quick.
I probably just can't answer most of those things.
And shout out to you for being a kind of guy who says, I don't know. I agree with you both. One of the coolest things we try to do this on our platform. It's not dumbing things down for people, but it's elevating everybody in the discourse so that we can all participate and understand.
I think one of the things I really appreciate about working with them, and it was from the first call that we had, was even their framing of smart and dumb is different, where they're like, Azeem, we don't understand how to do any of the stuff that you do. And we basically have understandings and conversations of like, product is very important. Distribution is extremely important as well. And so to be able to say that, both things need to be done, and to them, getting partnership announcements and going to countries and meeting with regulators and things that like I'm able to do, it's the whatever would be like the anti version of like mathemagic for them is just like in the real world. They're like, we don't know how we would start this. Like the amount of times they make jokes where like, they're like, hey, we need to get in touch with MoonPay. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll get that done today. And all the time they're like, Azeem, how do you know everyone? Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's just like, I know a guy who knows a guy. Right. And so I think that's one of the things that makes it work very well, is that there isn't a culture of being like, oh no, Azeem, we agree with you. You're dumber than us. They're like, no, we're just like complementarily smart. And that's one of the nicest things about working there, is that I don't have to feel like I'm dumber in that way. It's just like, hey, we have jobs that we have to complementarily do.
Yeah, well said. Alex, take it to the regulatory place. There is a lot of concern right now about legislation, the way it will be passed, what it will do for us. And it seems like the last thing that we're going to get, at least in the United States, is helpful clarity. But people want to know how Miden can protect them and blockchain generally from maybe harmful legislation like that. How would you say it, Alex? Is that a good way to transition?
Yeah, that's a good bumper sticker. So
we've been talking about this all day, man.
Yeah. So effectively, we are beginning the construction of the legislative and legal framework for crypto use and construction and building and adoption inside the United States. And surprise, surprise, it is slanted extremely heavily towards the corporate side and not the DeFi side. So piece number one into that puzzle is Genius, which was crammed through Congress extremely quickly, start to finish. Like proposal to president signing it was 6 months, which is obscene for this particular Congress. And that one effectively, sets up the ability for large companies in the United States to become non-bank financial institutions and make a tremendous amount of money by creating and maintaining and custodying and pegging their own stablecoin. So, the behind the scenes, we can go into it another time, but effectively, it transfers custody of Fed assets to do with backing up the US dollar over to private companies. It privatizes the dollar, and they get to make a shitload of money, and they get to keep it all because Genius prevents them from paying stablecoin yields out to holders of theirs. Enter Clarity, and Clarity basically expounds upon that corporate benefits package to create a set of parameters that are very, very, very difficult for decentralized applications to follow appropriately and comply with, and creates a framework wherein centralized entities have an easier time, get to stay in business, get set up to receive more traffic because the DeFi is harder to use, and then a framework for surveillance through the centralized platforms. And so enter ZK, and it's just as one methodology for privacy, because there are several, which is also interesting to read about. So Salim's question was, how does something like this potentially help, or could it be hurt by a legal framework such as Clarity? And my addition to that, I guess, is that I don't want to use the word loophole because it's not appropriate. I'm trying to think of a better one. The thing that gets protected inside of Clarity is the code base. The thing that gets hurt is the way that we all collectively as users interact with a decentralized code base through the front end of some sort of application. So the easiest example there would be that Uniswap's code that makes the protocol function is protected, but the app, the front end that we all need to use in order to execute a swap, is basically regulated out of existence. And by requiring KYC, which just can't work in a DeFi protocol that's built that way.
Yep.
However, to your point, Azeem, you kind of need some sort of method for that, because otherwise you are completely unregulated, meaning, no policing, no oversight whatsoever. And of course, leave it to crypto nerds to come up with a code-based way to do that without needing to build a completely centralized front end and still store everyone's personally sensitive information on a hackable, breachable, leakable database. So I guess, is this a topic that has come up with you? I imagine that it is, given the fact that you could use, ZK proofs, you could use this technology basically to obfuscate user identity without needing to worry about necessarily releasing it, and not needing to, because you could prove through decentralized code that it was done properly and correctly.
I'd say what I think about, and it's why, even the way that we're approaching how we're going to go sequencing mainnet, TG, all of those things, a lot of it is predicated on the fact that I have been telling the team that the most important and difficult hurdle that we're going to have to cross is the idea of using zero knowledge proofs for any of this stuff, because the idea of how KYC works at the moment is basically storing data. And so the idea of the way PII is just dealt with as a whole from all of the banks, from all of the government organizations, is that they go out of their way to create essentially like honeypots of data where, there was one exchange that we all know of that's very well known in the United States that had a massive breach, right? And now,
you can say it. We've said it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And they have been, I still get text messages on a weekly basis about that. And it was because the way that KYC is done, and it's not just them, it's all of these exchanges, is that you're supposed to store all of that data, and then they need to be able to check and recheck. But it's just that part alone is the way that KYC and AML is handled is done through collect, own, store, hold data. And the idea of letting them say, no one will collect, hold, and store this data, but we can prove that all of the things that you are looking to actually have met are still being met. Just that concept of how do we do that if we don't have it, has been the thing where I'm like, guys, more difficult than getting the applications to create success will be getting the regulators to understand why they should accept a zero knowledge proof, even if we can create the perfect application. And so this is 100% it. And this is the stuff that takes a long time. This is the stuff that, you know, because you can't speed rush any of this in. And, you know, do you guys remember when, I think it was during COVID times or around COVID times, when they brought like Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg and everyone to Capitol Hill?
Oh yeah.
And then they were asking them like the most basic questions. And
like how does my Wi-Fi work kind of stuff.
Yeah. And they didn't know the difference, that like the questions.
Does it use the home network?
Yes. And the questions they're asking, like, you know, Zuckerberg are about Twitter when he doesn't. And so it's like, you have to think about like the average age of the person and the average technological understanding of the person that is in these regulatory seats, not just in the United States, but globally. And then say that, hey, we are going to completely change the framework with which this is done on a global level through this like mathemagic formula. And so that is the part where cracking that and getting the regulators and the bankers and everyone to accept that is the hardest part of all of this.
Yeah, and we laughed at it, but it's not a laughing matter. Like if you're a congressperson or a representative listening, if you're somebody who struggles to understand how quickly tech is changing, that's exactly why we make this show. We're deeply sympathetic towards that. And we were talking backstage. I thought Solomon and the other folks might like to know that you were saying to Alex, and Alex was saying to you, just how critical we feel it is to get in front of people who are passing legislation, who have the ability to talk to anybody they want to, but they don't know who to talk to. They're probably well-intentioned, but they're misinformed, and we need to reach them with a better story to help them understand this stuff. So, you know, more power to you, brother.
Well-intentioned is up for debate.
Well, you know.
Man, I will say, so when I was at Gitcoin, it was April of 23 was my first time on Capitol Hill. Coinbase was doing some event. I went up there, and then work that I actually did ended up basically helping form the initial pieces of what became Stand With Crypto. We did a grants round when I was at Gitcoin when Coinbase had gotten the Wells notice, and we called it a policymaker education round. And basically, the grant round was formed where there was a small shield that you could buy the NFT of, or you can mint the NFT on Zora.
I have it.
Yeah. Oh, you have it, right?
We all do. Yeah.
Oh, yes. I have many of them in my wallet. And so for the listeners, it was basically like you can mint an NFT shield on Zora, and then Zora would donate $1 for every single shield that was minted. And the hashtag for the campaign was Stand With Crypto. And they ended up turning this into a 501c4 org because of how much success the idea had. And so I have been to Capitol Hill with Coinbase on Stand With Crypto stuff multiple times at this point. And before going, my understanding had basically been, not to say they're evil, but it was more negative. And then I got there and I sat with a bunch of folks, ones that cared about crypto like a Richie Torres to ones who didn't give any shits about crypto. And what I found was that they are so uneducated on all of the things that are crypto.
100%. Yep.
And they just don't know. And, when I would sit down and go, we did stuff with UNICEF. And they'd be like, wait, crypto does stuff with UNICEF? And I was like, yeah, actually, UNICEF has had a crypto fund since 2017 where they've been investing in dozens of projects. And they're like, wait, I didn't know that.
St. Jude has an entire department dedicated to fundraising specifically in the crypto industry. Shout out, Mark. We love you.
So I would say it requires just way more of people actually calling their congressman and all of that. And I think one of the tough things has been when I talk to them too, they're like, it's different when individuals actually reach out versus the people who own a $40 million home on the coast of Los Angeles or something like that.
Or
right?
when Brian Armstrong tweets about your bill.
Yes. Or 100%. He probably has one of those $40 million homes in LA too.
At least. Yeah. So for context too, Evan and I and Will actually, we did some work with Stand With Crypto before the previous election. My particular beef, our shared beef with them specifically was the methodology used to score candidates. I actually whined about this quite a bit on Trust Issues today.
I don't know about this.
Yeah, I don't think it's done very well. And actually, I just had another meeting with them yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was talking shit about them on the show the other day, and one of their representatives was listening and
He's
reached out.
He's a long-time listener. We love it.
We had a really good conversation. And so I'm trying to get some insight into exactly how the candidate scoring method works. And then I would like to try to help improve it, because the way that it worked was like really, really two-dimensional. You know, there was like no nuance to what got somebody a point. It was basically like voted yes or no on a bill that we determined to be pro-crypto. But there was no appreciation for the specific contents of the bill. And so someone who, like, for example, if you had two politicians who looked at clarity right now and one of them voted for it, even though they don't give a shit about anything and they were just lobbied into doing it because Coinbase said so, versus a candidate who looked at it and said, I think that this makes it way too hard for DeFi protocols to function, and I'm worried that they're going to get regulated out of existence and we need to fix this, and voted against it. The voted against it, even though they did it for DeFi motivations, would be scored.
Fascinating. Oh,
yeah.
Man, when we talk separately, if there's anyone else I can connect you to at Stand with Crypto, I know all of the people there. Anyone that I can connect you to on that, like, that would definitely be a conversation worth having.
That would be awesome. That is what I would really like to do with the trust issues shows. Try to work on that and then help, because I would love to participate in legislator education initiatives with them, because I know they recently made a pretty large advancement in the university chapters front too, and have representatives chapters in like all 50 states, which I've been trying to get into the college scene for a long time, specifically here in Savannah at SCAD, to do like art student education about tokenizing to protect rights to artwork that you own.
We should definitely chat. I was fortunate, going back again to Gitcoin, where I used to lead fundraising for the regulatory advocacy rounds. And so the policymaker education one that we did with Coinbase was the last of them. But because of my work there, whether it's the Blockchain Association, Coin Center, DeFi Education Fund, EUCI, like all of these orgs, when I've chatted with them since, Decentralization Research Center, I'm just like, hey, I actually put 6 figures of money into your coffers at some point based on like fundraising that I did and rounds that we ran. And so I've been fortunate in that, whether it's like the law firms, the people who run the orgs, like Connor Spellacy, who is now the global head of policy for the Ethereum Foundation, helped start the Blockchain Association and was running the Decentralization Research Center. And like, he was one of the people who would work closely with me on these. And so I've been fortunate enough to meet all of those people. And so we chat, 100% happy to like put you in touch with all of the right people for this.
And can I actually just quickly interject to say, for folks who are just joining us or folks who need a reminder, this is Rise Up After Dark, and the place to get in touch with us if you're curious about Stand with Crypto, Miden, anything else we talk about on the show with Azeem, or you want to get to know me and Alex better, learn to use crypto, for example, to protect your artwork. Hey, Ashley, good to see you. Then check out community.rumshq.com. There's no good way to catch you on social media. We get a ton of inbound. A lot of it is scammy. And if you're trying to learn, we really want to help you. It's free to sign up, super simple to use. You just put in an email, you create a little password. Not protected by ZK yet, but it's the best way to get a hold of us. It's where the show lives 24/7, and we would love to see you there. I also think, on the policy note, before we like pivot away from politics, etc., about Stand with Crypto specifically, is there's this I don't know, we want to do, there's this perception that it's right leaning in a way that I would describe as unhelpful, when what they want, what I think most crypto advocates want, is to make it clear that this is a non-partisan technology. And we've talked with other policymakers. Hester Peirce is a friend of the show, and we would love to do. Alex wants to go to DC and knock on Congress people's doors and sit down in their office and just hang out. But we also,
I want to go to DC to be Dennis Porter's coffee boy.
Dennis Porter's coffee boy, yeah. Do you know Dennis Porter at the Satoshi Action Fund?
I do not.
They're also advocates.
He's on the policy side, but Bitcoin specific. He doesn't give a shit about anything except Bitcoin, and he's just Mr. Bitcoin.
Okay.
It's not that he doesn't give a shit about it. It's that he has clarity of purpose. And
yeah, he's very committed to that front specifically, and has helped co-sponsor and actually write quite a number of different bills at the state level with regards to either self-custody enshrining or like Bitcoin reserve setup and construction.
Yeah, but one of the initiatives I think we as a company, as a community, want to focus on specifically is, we don't always have time, and the people in our audience don't have the ability necessarily to go to Washington to sit down in a meeting with policymakers like Alex would like to, like you would like to. But we do have the ability to pull out our phones and make a great helpful piece of content. I would really like to see more joint initiatives from policymakers, from crypto companies, and creators in our space to make these things clear, to educate about pig butchering schemes, to educate about the law, or advocate for what helpful policy would look like. So that's, you know, as we continue the conversation, that's another thing we would really, really love to do. You know?
That would be awesome. I want to continue to be a friend of the show in ways that we can figure that out.
Dude, you are a friend of the show and a brother to my heart.
Yep, you're in it now.
You're in it now. Yeah, we actually have a chat in the community. You know, everybody needs another Telegram chat like they need another hole in their head, but we have been meaning to do this for a while. We have other priority things, but we have just such an eclectic list, as I know you do, a Rolodex of people we've collected throughout the space, and we would love to throw them all in a chat together because the fun and casual like business development that could happen there, I think is great. I would love to have the group chat with Hester Pierce and DeWoofy and Azeem and William Quigley. It would be so fun, and Evan McMullen, and so on and so forth. So it's on the list. And Pizza Dow can host it, exactly. Sponsored by Stand With Crypto. We have a number of questions that came in, and I would like to answer some of them that just take it back to Miden that are like maybe faster hitting questions. I shared Miden on the show, or maybe it was you, Alex, when we were doing a drive-through tutorial of like staking. One of the places we took people was staking.polygon.technology. And staking is a good process for people to learn about because it's a good citizen thing to do. It is a crypto kind of beyond currency thing to learn. And if you're going to do any kind of other DeFi stuff, then it can get you used to the kind of skills you'll be doing again and again and again. So for people who haven't seen this before and people in podcast land, I'm headed to staking.polygon.technology. And one of the things that I saw there was they have this community airdrops page. We shared with people that a benefit of staking is that it's an on-chain activity that, because it's a good citizen thing, a lot of people will use to say, hey, we'd like to reward you, a good citizen of the protocol, with our tokens. Like our friend of the show, Billions, is there. Miden is there, is potentially gonna airdrop tokens. But that brings me to the question. As a guy who could do anything in crypto, as a guy who's building a protocol now, what is the Miden token gonna do? What's your relationship to Polygon? And is this, it's not gonna be a pump and dump airdrop. Are you nervous about it though? Because God, I'd be nervous about giving people an airdrop. Take that anywhere you want, but I'd love
No, totally. To be honest, we haven't announced this anywhere yet, so this is an exclusive, I guess, in that way.
Okay, then hang on. Let me give you.
Yeah.
Take your time. Hit it.
We're gonna do mainnet in Q2 of this year, most likely, but we don't know when we're gonna do TGE, and the reason for that is because I know all of the things that you need to do to make a token pump. I know how to get to the exchanges. I know how to get listed on the exchanges. I know how to do all of the things that would say that you won the game that you were looking to win. But I don't believe that those are the games that you should win. And so
this is my love language, by the way.
I've been like I was saying earlier, like I've been very fortunate that, I know all of the exchanges, and it's because I've been knowing them for a long time now. And so any of the things that we would need to do to launch a token, we totally could. The problem is that if you look at L2 tokens as a whole, they trend towards zero because you don't really know why you need the token.
Yeah.
And what does value accrual for a token look like, especially an L2 token? And what do you need to do? Because even these buybacks, like you can literally see, like you buy back the token, price goes up. You stop buying back the token, price goes down. Buyback is not the only way to be able to do this. What are other ways you can do it? And then actually, if you look back at a lot of the tokenomics for projects that came out during Gensler's reign at the SEC, they're very opaque and almost go out of their way not to show any sort of business model. And that was because it was very intentional, because they didn't want anything that would then potentially be viewed as a security.
Right.
And now that we've moved into a place, as you mentioned, with, Hester Peirce and other folks at the SEC and regulations actually passing, it's time for tokens to have a new business model, or to actually have a business model.
Thank you.
And Yeah. And so because of that, I just, this was a discussion. I wrote a long internal memo, and I've been actually debating just sharing the actual straight memo. I put it together where I said, look, like 2026 is going to not be a good year for tokens. Just generally,
Yes.
there's
Mm-hmm.
years with elections are typically bad. If we just get market structure bill done, it would be a miracle. But there's massive chaos and instability going on at the macroeconomic level. That is never good for markets. That is definitely not good for things that are already volatile to begin with. We have already seen that as much as Bitcoin was supposed to be a hedge against inflation and was supposed to be digital gold, that gold is still and always will be gold, and Bitcoin is not gold,
Yeah.
right? And so I sat with the team and I wrote this entire long memo of, do we do a Series A or do we do an ICO? And what are the pros and cons of each? And then do we want to do TGE before mainnet? Do we want to do TGE at mainnet? Or do we want to do TGE in a delayed fashion after mainnet once we've proven out something real? And I basically wrote out everything. And then I gave what my thoughts were for each of the options, but I wanted everything laid out so that the team would be able to really understand it. And then we can have a discussion about it. This was for leadership. And so at the moment, the question is, I don't know for the Miden token. It's because there's still so much to do that if I looked at this more akin to Web 2, traditionally you don't go into public markets until you have figured out so many things. You have real revenue, you have real brand, you have real advertising, you have real runway. You actually know what you're doing. And then you understand why people would want to buy your stock in the first place. If none of those things are figured out and you launch a token, and if, as they say in our industry, the token is the product, and if your product is not doing well, because every token is down 99.5% from all-time high at this point, it seems like, if you're an all, right? And so if the token is the product and the product in the token is not doing well, then that means the perception of your product will not do well. And so why would anyone want to build on something that's 99% down from all-time highs?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. We're looking at trying to do a fundraise, build out the thesis, show that the tech is working in the ways that we said that it would, show that this hypothesis of institutional adoption makes sense, show that we have an ecosystem of companies building interesting things, raise money, have multiple years of runway, do not sponsor any massive parties, stay conservative on burn, figure out how we can build a real ecosystem of companies providing real value, and then understand what is it that we need to launch as a token that we can say actually will have value accrual. And while I haven't talked to Hester Peirce's office about this yet, it's very likely that it's going to have to be a security. What does that even look like? Because exchanges don't want to launch it if you say it's a security. And so I don't actually know right now. But the idea is not to launch a vaporware token because I know everything. I mean, as an example, like we launched our Kaido campaign a couple months back, and typically companies were doing Kaido campaigns 1 to 2 months before token launch to hype things up. I said, no, we're going to take a different approach. We're going to use it as a community awareness platform where there's going to be a bunch of AI slop, but we will find creators who we can feed information to that can then act as like KOLs that we can sort of guide without having to pay out $250,000 a month. And on a consistent basis, from the time that we launched our Kaido campaign, we were somewhere between number 1 and 3 in the country of Korea, which is a very important country for crypto tokens. And then we were in the top 10 pre-TGE globally. And it was because we launched a very successful, very good Kaido campaign in a very good way. And we had a colleague that I work with that we had hired that was running point on all of it. It was a very successful yapper from Korea. And then look, they pulled the API access for Kaido. And now we're having to reassess everything. So it was a game that I understood what we needed to do to win in crypto, a crypto game. And we were winning the crypto game. But now, as we're doing the post-mortem, I'm having to ask myself, did we really win? And that extends into the thoughts around the token too.
I have thoughts on that specifically. You are the first person I think I've ever heard float the idea of launching a token as a security. And that's so funny. I've always thought that was interesting because it's constantly talked about as if it is like the ultimate death sentence. And there is a long-standing, legally recognized framework for getting licensed to launch and then selling a security. Like, it's not new. The problem with crypto and securities is that most things fit the definition technically, especially through method of sale, and didn't do any of the stuff.
Yes.
And I just that is really interesting. That is really cool and reassuring to hear, to be very honest with you.
Thank you. And those are the things where I'm like, I want us to have the runway and to be able to afford the legal and to be able to go through the process, especially as we're starting to talk about tokenized equities and all these things. Like, why not? Like, you know, because the Howey test basically says, can you invest in something and like have reasonable expectation that the price would go up? But if we build something that, you know, actually does something that we can say that there's a reasonable expectation the price would go up, that's when I would want to launch it. That's what I would want there to be. I would want people to say, I think that this is a value investment. I believe that this will go up over time. These are the reasons that I'm investing in it. This is why I think it's, because right now when you look, other than mimetic value, there's basically no reason anything goes up or down.
Yeah.
Nothing, you know? And we'll not, like, we don't have to pick a token. A token could be up 600% or down 80%. Why was it up? Why was it down? Other than mimetic value of market sentiment. I want to be able to look at these tokens the way that I go and look at the stock market and go, hey, based on PE ratio, based on debt, based on income, based on revenues, like, I think that this is undervalued. I want there to be a Warren Buffett-like character who can look at stocks and who can look at crypto tokens the way they look at stocks and go, I believe that this is undervalued and I want to invest in it. And I think that it's going to be very valuable for these reasons. You can't do that in crypto right now. We don't even know the metrics that we'd be looking to look at. And so I want to do that. I have no clue what it's going to take, but I just refuse to believe it's not possible.
Yeah. For people who can't see Alex's face, he's basically falling in love.
I am a big fan of
because we talk all the time on the show about Ponzi's until proven otherwise, pupos, we like to call them, or the mimetic value, the number one driver of price being hyped. Today on the morning show, we were looking at the market cap of Cardano and then looking at its revenue, you know what I mean? And comparing it to other companies with a similar market cap and saying, now, can you really, why, how do you say it has this value? And especially when you talk about, it's really interesting that you had started this conversation talking about institutional partners. Like a handful of institutional partners will make a big wave of difference. In the comments, pretty frequently lately, we've heard a lot about Canton Network, the reemergence of that into like the popular zeitgeist. People all the time on socials talk about Ripple. And it really only would take a couple of institutional partners, but they are not going to take you seriously as a new guy on the block if you launch this token to a bunch of airdrop farmers and say, let's make it a DAO and here's our roadmap. Or, you know, it's a very different playbook than what a lot of crypto products have tried to do.
Well, and it's like you said, right? Like the conversation about changing the business model of a token creation, launch, whatever, has been so like short-sighted for so long, wherein like you look at the model that currently exists. Icy and I were talking about this with regards to gaming specifically, in that like, why are gaming token launches consistently getting worse, even though like technically, you know, the game dev itself is improving exponentially. And you know, you arrive at the fact that we're still using this exhausted, heavy early VC involvement, heavy early KOL involvement, and the only thing that's getting shaken up at all, and I even shudder at using the phrase shake it up because we're not, is just like lightly trying to change the incentive structure, or like more heavily or aggressively bribing the KOLs, or like trying to be more personable. And it's like you're doing at its core, you're doing the exact same thing we've done now literally 20 million times and expecting a different result, which that's a classic definition of something or other, isn't it? And
Go ahead. And this has been it, because and this goes, I know all of the KOL networks that you would need to call. I know, you know, of the popular projects that have done extremely well in the past year. I know who they use for KOLs. I know the agencies they used. I know how much money they had to spend. There are ICOs. I mean, there is the idea of a community driven ICO it doesn't happen. There's whale-driven ICOs, and like you're able to make sure that the ICO is going to be filled because you had whales that end up making sure that it will be oversubscribed, which then looks like it's going to be something that the community is piling into. And so like all of these things, it's just having been here so long and having seen all of it play out so many times, it has been just where I looked at, I'm like, I don't want to do this because I don't think a token is successful if it's really up for a month and a half. For me, our token will be considered successful if it's up and to the right after unlocks. And that's the thing that no one really gets defined. You know, everyone talks about how the price action is looking for 3 weeks, 5 weeks. Like, in what world does 5 weeks of price action matter?
It's so short-sighted. It's insane.
Yeah. But for all of this, it's like everything is so against the grain. Like, you know, everyone is like, what are you talking about? We're like, because everyone's like, Azeem, you know everything you need to do this. And I'm just like, yeah, but like, it's not the game worth winning. If the game that I wanted to win was that I wanted to launch at a high FDV, and then I wanted to sell my tokens at like a 60 to 70% discount to OTC, and some market makers would buy it and I would personally become enriched, like, then that's the game you want to play. If I really wanted to play that game, I would not put my face and my reputation and my integrity on the line, though, to be able to cash out. You know, I don't know, most of the founders that I've spoken to that have done this, and it's harder now, would be like, I don't know, between 10 and 20 million before taxes. But it's like, I'm a New York resident. I'm losing half of that immediately. And so I'm like, am I really selling the entirety of my integrity for somewhere between $5 and $10 million? Like, no, like, absolutely not. Like, this makes no sense.
No, way undervalued. I said that to the folks on the morning show. I said, Azeem is like a long-term game with long-term people kind of guy. I got that impression right away when I met you, and your reputation preceded you. And I was like, this is what, you know, it baffles me that all the smart people I know that you were talking about that choose to work in crypto, that so many of them take that deal.
But I think one of the things I've found, because I've now been a founder since, 2012, and I was one of those kids who like sold candy as a kid and like Pokemon cards and stuff. Entrepreneurship has been something I've been doing for a long time. And I think one of the things that I find when I look around at crypto and why people take that Faustian bargain so quickly is, my honest assumption is that most people know that they're not cut out to be able to do what it takes to take the long road. I think I spoke at Silicon Valley Bank a couple weeks back on a panel, and someone was asking at the end, it was one of the questions was, what is it that keeps you up at night? Like, what are you afraid of? And I was like, nothing keeps me up at night. I sleep like a baby. And he was like,
dread.
and it's around this, right? And he was like, what are you most passionate about? And I was like, winning. I was like, that's the thing that I'm most passionate. I was like, because at the end of the day, I think that the idea of really believing in yourself is not this like faux bravado that we see on timelines or that people do. Real confidence is like when you wake up at 3:00 in the morning randomly and you're scared and you're like, shit, like, is this going to work? What am I going to do? How's this going to work? Like, all the odds are against me. You should be able to go, I'm that dude. I'm going back to sleep. Yeah. That is the confidence that you need to have. And I don't find many founders in this industry actually have that. And they see a couple $1 million on the table, and maybe sometimes more than a couple million. And they're like, okay, cool. I'm happy to take this and disappear. And they do.
That's exactly why I still work with Evan, because he and I did this for free, actually for negative money, for years.
A lot of different this. We did a lot of things.
a lot of things. Yeah, we've gone out of business together, I don't know, 6 times, and then even this, rise up as a company, as a business, like with some kind of overhead, with zero revenue at all. Just like, you keep doing it because like I know that I'm right about this specifically.
100%.
Yes,
100%. We say to people all the time, the amount of times we say no because it's not the right opportunity, it's not the right way to take the money. Like the money is the smallest part of the success that we will have if we continue showing up and living our lives. We are already wealthy in ways that billionaires will never be.
100%.
That's the trick.
100%.
That's the trick.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I have a couple of other rapid fire questions. A little bit of news to break, and
Do
then
you have
we're
4
gonna.
more hours? Because this is really fun.
Yeah, already the comments, they want to know when's Azeem coming back, and we would love to have you back anytime, and it doesn't have to be a 2-hour just all about you in the spotlight interview. We usually do cover a lot of crypto news, a lot of takes on things. Our audience always asks really interesting questions. Maybe one of the episodes we really want to do that we haven't done, we had Violet, Will's longtime partner on the show, and Alex is married. I'm engaged to be married. I would really like to do our partners are not in and around crypto, but I feel like there could be more content about that.
That would be fun. Mine is, so it's like
yours is
Mashal would have a slight advantage.
But that's why I want to do it with Mashal, is because Mashal is she's a long-term person, long games. She's a real person who's not trying to sell some scammy junky token that I could introduce Kimberly to, and Kimberly would be like, see, this is what you need to be doing in crypto. And I'd be like, baby, I know, you're right.
And if all else fails, we could probably have a full episode with Mashal just talking about the Silmarillion, and it would be, because I know she's a gigantic Lord of the Rings fan.
Yeah,
we ended up watching all 3 of the 25th anniversary release, and so I
finished it this morning.
We did Return of the King on Saturday. There was a huge snowstorm on Sunday, and she did some like cooking class in upstate New York, in where were we, in Hyde Park. So we were there from like Monday to Saturday. We had bought tickets for the Sunday showing, and I was like, Michelle, there's a snowstorm. There's no way we're going to be able to go out to watch that movie. So we drove back extra early on Saturday, and she found other tickets. And so we ended up doing Return of the King on Saturday. And so, yes, she is a massive Lord of the Rings fan. I watched all 3 of the extendeds in the last like 2 weeks with her.
That's a marathon.
Me too. We were doing it at the same time. This is serendipity. It couldn't be like this whole. I can't hear. There we go. This entire.
Oh my gosh.
This entire display case over here, as I now walk. I won't be able to hear you guys for a second.
Yeah. I'll narrate for you as you scream into the microphone. For the people in podcast land, Alex is going over to a case of illuminated nerddom. I'm sure there are first edition books. There's probably more magic cards than I care to get into. He's got check this out. This is excellent, actually. Alex's wife Christina is a very talented artist in many ways, but one of them is with the thread. She is a crochet master. She did this beautiful morning show banner on my wall here, and go ahead, take it over. I've introed Christina's crochet ability, and she's also done
and
the
a crochet Balrog. There's also
awesome.
A Frodo and an Aragorn over there.
Yeah, they're so cute.
She's doing this like crocheted, what are they called? What are those little things? Those little cartoon thingies with the big heads?
Funko Pop?
Bobbleheads?
Yeah,
Funko
those.
Okay.
She's making like crocheted versions of Funko Pops of the entire Fellowship of the Ring for me.
Yeah,
and
I have my nerddom too.
Oh,
like
hell yeah.
Like random stuff that's just on the desk and stuff that's downstairs.
This is my copy of The Hobbit. It's well read. And then Magic the Gathering, my other gigantic nerd passion, has a Lord of the Rings set. And so these are like the Surge foil legendary lands. So Minas Morgul and Helm's Deep are there. There's a bunch more over there. There's a whole like leather-bound book with all the Lord of the Rings cards in it. Like
I love this. Yes.
Kindred spirits.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Then she would be able to go on and on and on and on. I mean, I think the other day she ended up buying a Lord of the Rings cheese board, literally.
Yeah, bullish.
A cheese board?
It's literally like a regular cheese board, but it has like Elvish written all over it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Okay, so we've got to do that. The partners get points. We have questions from the comments about where you'll be traveling next. I happen to see that you are hosting an event at ETH Denver. So will you personally be there?
Yes.
Oh,
so
cool.
We'll see you there.
Oh, awesome. I will be in New York for the next week and a half, but then I think on Friday next week, or Friday or Saturday next week, I fly out to Tashkent in Uzbekistan. And I will be there for some meetings with the government, central bank, bankers, and government officials. And then I will go to 2 cities in Kazakhstan as well over the course of like a 10-day trip. So I'll do Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. I'll be going back to do Tajikistan, but it is going to meet with the central bank and bankers, different government officials about some of the things that Miden could be able to do on a variety of places and see what we can get done over there. And then I will fly a very long flight from Tashkent to Denver through.
Yeah, that sounds short.
Yeah, I think it's like all together with stops, it's like 40 something hours.
Sure, sounds about right.
To get to Denver. And I think I get there like the day before the privacy salon. So we'll see how I feel. I find generally east to west is easier to deal with than west to east anyway. But yes, I will be at the privacy salon that we are hosting at ETH Denver, and we'll be excited to see both of you there and anyone else in the audience who is going to be joining.
I saw it just as I was looking through Luma for different events. I don't remember if I registered or not, but I said to myself, I better make a point to ask Azeem. And if there's anything we can do to support you, if you need help from someone on a mic saying, please leave your shoes at reception, the tea is over here, or whatever else, let us know.
I'll connect you guys to Ben. I'll connect you guys to Ben.
We'd be glad to sweep the floors and shake hands or whatever would help you have a good event. We're there to eat.
It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. We rented a very nice location. We're co-hosting it with Alio and Midnight, and I don't know if there's any other sponsors we've spoken to, but it's like a 3-way co-host between us, Alio, and Midnight, and so yeah.
So all companies that I'm interested in people who are solving the privacy problem. So is Alex. We've had a lot of comments about that in the last year. How do I use crypto privately, and who want a better answer than just go to a Bitcoin ATM in a hoodie. So that's something I personally want to educate myself about, is like the practical, tactical. You could do it.
That's the original ZK right there.
Yeah.
Ski mask at the Bitcoin ATM.
And an Alex Popovich mask. You know what I mean? So that's something we want to learn about. People want to know a couple of other things from you. Do you participate in any DeFi? Our friend Magic, who's a DeFi aficionado, said, do you have any top 5 favorite protocols? And also wants to know what kind of like wallet setups are you using?
Man, I am super boring and do most of my stuff with just Aave type things. Like I have found
just use Aave.
Yeah,
this is the home of boring, by the way. So
Mashal's getting me into some staking on Katana. Speaking of Polygon, USDC on there is doing like 40-something% or something like that. But generally, I realize when your job is like trading and DeFi, you can stay up to date on what's going on, get in and out of contracts, do all of the stuff, see the faintest news that things are about to change and get out. When you're a full-time builder, you do not have time for any of that. And so you go for the safe thing and just like stake it and do that. Wallet setup, I've been using ledgers, and sometime late last year, finally was like, I'm done with this. Picked up one of the Trezors and have enjoyed doing that. Hot wallets, still, it's just between MetaMask and Phantom. I want to say that I've like left MetaMask, but it's one of those things where like when you've been there long enough, you just end up continuing to use it as opposed to figuring out another one. A little bit of Phantom, and then
we were fortunate to get to try a lot of wallets as they were coming out, like you, and it's hard to leave, I feel like. But recently, I've enjoyed Rabby Wallet. I'm becoming a maximalist for how easy it is to use that. That's an EVM wallet.
Same.
Super intuitive. And our partners of the show are Arculus. Have you ever used an Arculus cold storage wallet?
I have not, actually.
Okay, so Arculus is not as well known, but they're developed by a company called CompoSecure. The product was invented by Dr. Adam Lowe, who's the chief product officer at CompoSecure, which is like New York Stock Exchange traded, one of the global leaders in encrypted privacy technology. They make the chips in your Visa card, in your MasterCard. And they built a crypto card product. And the way it works is your keys live on the device. They give you a seed phrase. It works with an app in your phone, but the device itself has no firmware. So there's no like my Ledger battery died or I got a firmware update and got hacked or something like that. So I found it to be a really helpful not just for newcomers to crypto because they understand kind of like the card concept. They like the ease of that. But honestly, for OG, we were talking to our friend of the show a couple after darks ago, William Quigley. He's the co-founder of Tether, and he's the managing partner for a capital fund that buys hundreds of ledgers. So he was complaining about how some of them get shipped to him and they don't even work. You know, and there's a lot of concerns about data privacy and breaches.
Yep.
So
another leak in recent days.
You know, so
in the last week, I think.
So we have really enjoyed working with them and the way that they tell the story, and that seems like a good time for me to tell you, yes, you listening live, if you want to win an Arculus wallet, we are going to give away a couple more tonight. So let us know, leave a comment. If you need a cold storage solution, we would love to set you up with an Arculus wallet. You can get a generic one. They recently released an XRP branded Arculus wallet that I've been trying to get rid of because they do a lot of advertising on social media, as you can imagine. And I've offered to autograph this and then send it to you. It's still sealed. I don't have the seed phrase because, somebody out there will cherish it more than I will. And we are, I know, right? We're going to launch the Rums co-branded purple wallet soon. So if you win tonight, you can take your pick, and those will be shipped to you directly from Arculus. We'll do that in a second. We'll ask Azeem to help us pick a number so we can give one away to a premium member of the community, someone in the audience. But speaking of companies that leak your information, did you guys see this breaking news that Coinbase is now got prediction markets live in their app
through
for
Kalshi.
people in all 50 states? Is it through Kalshi? I don't know that I read that far in the tweet, but I saw it from Brian Armstrong before we went live.
I'm pretty sure I think it's powered by Kalshi. I think I was looking at
I tell you right, just knowing what I know about the two big ones, it has to be Kalshi if it's available to US citizens through
right.
It has
so
to be.
I've got it up here in podcast land. All you got to do is go to coinbase.com. You find the little predict. It's super convenient. I'm sure they're trying to drive a lot of people there. And the bet that they're advertising is about the big game. I think I'm allowed to say Super Bowl live, even if they're not allowed to say it. But it looks like a prediction market. So congratulations, Coinbase. Man, thoughts on prediction markets, Azeem?
I honestly think they're really interesting because, like, the idea of options on future outcomes is something that seems interesting to me. It seems a little bit different than just like reskinned gambling. We'll see if it's just reskinned gambling. I do think, on a darker note, the idea that you can bet on anything now is not something I'm a fan of. Like, I don't personally do prediction market stuff. I don't like spend any money on them. I think the idea of being able to bet on absolutely anything is a little bit nihilistic to me, and the financialization of every single thing in our lives is probably not something that means that society's in a good place. I share
the concern, and I have like two specific areas that worry me. One, we saw what happened when Pump.Fund enabled live streaming and how that went. And so that angle worries me, once you add not just monetization, but like a framework for gambling on anything. But then the prediction market thing has always kind of blown my mind a little bit, because it just really is interesting to me that people are taking out bets and people are getting paid on bets, wherein the prediction is made publicly available and accessible before the thing happens. And oftentimes the thing that is predicted to happen or not is under the specific control of an individual who could just do the thing and influence the outcome of the bet, which
didn't
seems
Brian
insane
Armstrong do that? Didn't Brian Armstrong
did that in a Coinbase meeting? He had seen that somebody had a prediction market. He would say certain things, and at the end of the meeting, as if to wink and smile at the audience, he said, by the way, picked up a piece of paper and said the words were, bet on. Clearly he's not insider trading, and he's not going to lose his, licenses and credibility.
But I think it was Richie Torres who recently put something up that like congressmen shouldn't be able to partake. And so I think that it seems like a new paradigm, but I don't know. I'm still trying to get like
opinions.
Yeah, I think that it seems more mature than meme coins. but I don't know if meme coins should be my anchor to decide on what like financial paradigms are. That's the problem.
Potentially problematic threshold for.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like the NFTs of 2021 and like, you know, Bored Apes, like, should that really be what I'm using as like my floor for how I decide this? And so I have some things that I've been meaning to sit down and actually read, like some reports, like Key Rock, one of the market makers, put something really interesting out on market making, on prediction markets, that I've been meaning to read. And so there's some things like that that on my very long flights coming up, I'm planning on spending a little bit more time with. What I will say is that I think that prediction markets being on fully publicly available blockchains leads to like interesting potential consequences if you know how much money is in a pool and how you can hedge and leverage that. And so I do think that private prediction markets built on Miden is probably going to become a thing. I know Aztec has, you know, talked about it, and I've had a lot of people ask us if and when we'll be doing private prediction markets. I personally am much more excited at the idea of a prediction market if I can get some like large licensing deal done, so I don't have to say the big game. How likely it is I can make something like that happen, I don't know. There's a deal that I'm working at that if I'm successful at it, I have actually, you know, I can handle the licensing and distribution aspect of this. But I don't want to have to say the big game, and I don't want to have to.
No,
you know,
dude. If anybody can do it, Azeem, I'm bullish. I'm bullish on you. Like of all the things that you could be doing, man, you are him. Not because you're some cocky guy, but just because, like, you know what, you're gonna do it.
I'm
and I like
this
that.
close. I'm like 95% of the way there on a deal we could talk about off air.
Okay.
And if I get that done, we will have done like our NBA Top Shot for Miden, and like I can say we're going to be successful like that.
Dude, that's killer. So as we, sorry, go ahead. I think I had a lag.
Oh no, I was just saying it's just not done yet.
This close. You know? This close. Okay, we will come back to it. I think one of the coolest things about this conversation and a lot of the conversations we have on After Dark specifically is, you know, crypto is like, everybody is welcome here, but the space can feel insular. The tech is intimidating, and it's difficult for people who get in now, especially if they're trying to learn about crypto and social media, to feel like they're connected with the people who came before. And it's really important for history keepers, for people who've been around since 2020 or 2017 or 2014, or who participated in the early days of the Bitcoin protocol, to make these kind of connections, to talk about all this. So Azeem, I really appreciate you for making time, for sharing your work. And I hope everybody listening has enjoyed getting to hear some of the historical perspective. Look up Gitcoin. Look up Kanye and Kimcoin. Look up Miden. And then stay in touch with Azeem. We'll be in touch with him. I'm going to come to you for a final thought in a second, but we've got two things to do because we're almost at that time where we need to ride our dogs and ponies, our cats and cows into the sunrise. So leave your last questions, suggestions, good jokes, words of wisdom, final thoughts, and all that good stuff in the comments. We'll give out an award for points in a second, but let me first say on the way out the door, one more piece of breaking news comes from Laura Shin. Shout out Laura. We love her over at Unchained. This is another feather in the cap for institutions and for our friends at the Ethereum Foundation. Justin, Fidelity announced the launch of a USD stablecoin, FIDD, built on Ethereum and issued by Fidelity Digital Assets.
There she blows.
In the comments, there's friend of the show, Benji, built on Ethereum, like pretty much everything else. So
yeah,
pretty much.
Another one bites the dust. Okay, if you're looking for cold storage,
it always ends up on Ethereum, doesn't it?
It always ends up on Ethereum. What's up with that? Ethereum and the layer 2s, it's almost like they are the infrastructure play, but alas, we'll talk about it another time. We want to give away a wallet. Alex, I don't know how many we have to give away. Are we giving away 2 and then 1 to a premium member?
Yeah. Was that 3 total?
Great.
Or
3 total.
Okay, sure. I mean,
in that case, what do you think?
I was just going to
say,
and
the XRP wallet, you know.
If we close down the submissions, the odds are very good on TikTok because there's 5.
Excellent. Okay.
6.
Then in that case, Azeem, let's do a TikTok giveaway first. Azeem, can you pick a number between 1 and 5?
6. 1 and 6.
6. 1 and 6. I can count, man.
1.
There you go.
Alex, who's the winner?
Today's first winner is Josh's Journey on TikTok.
Josh's Journey. Congratulations. Excellent. Excellent. Send us a message at community.rumshq.com to claim your wallet. And one more number. You can't pick one. Give us 1 through 6. What do you got, Azeem?
5.
5.
An excellent choice. 5 is our very own Jeff Rascal.
Whoa! And do you know what else? 5 also happens to be the chief fact check officer, the chief carrot officer, talking about Bearded. So we're going to give away a wallet to Bearded tonight also. So Jeff Rascal, Bearded, and Josh, what'd you say? I'm going to need to get that name from you. Send us a message. Josh's Journey. You can pick a purple wallet. You can pick an XRP wallet. You can pick a plain Jane black and silver Arculus, but send us a message and we'll get you some cold storage. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've really been waiting for. I am going to give out the points totals for tonight's game. In last place, it is, in fact, Mex C with 1 Gwump. Sorry about that. Mex C also tied for last place. I can't remember why they started out with 1 Gwump, Alex, but you gave a Gwump to Cointelegraph. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, I did.
What happened to them?
I did, and I stand by that. And actually, had I remembered it earlier, I would have given them another one. They posted the single dumbest post on Twitter that I've seen from a major, like, crypto-focused news outlet in a long time, and I really want to know who posted it. So, Clarity and Market Structure have been, like, out for a hot minute. And literally, like, 2 days ago, they posted something with the red, like, siren light emoji. And it was like, breaking. Clarity Act seeks to delineate responsibility between CFTC and SEC. And I was like, did you guys accidentally post this from drafts from 8 months ago? Like, what is this? And I'm like, better quality control.
Like clickbait?
So you gotta Gwump Cointelegraph, and I'm not sorry, because that was embarrassing for all of us.
Okay, after them, in the positive, we have several folks on the board, including Mr. Rogers, doing grant rounds with Gitcoin, St. Jude, Web3 Philanthropy, Stacy and Lex, who said normalize founders not having to know everything. And also, with just 1 point, I'm going to add another one, me. Which means...
corruption, I'm telling you.
Third place... with 3 points, 1 Gwump, 2 points, that's Alex Popovich. Tied for second place, I gave 5 points each to Mashal, Kimberly, Christina, and Violet, the wonderful women of Web3, which means tonight's champion in a runaway victory with 10 points. Give it up for Azeem Khan. Congratulations, Azeem, and thank you so much, man, for being generous with your time. Do you have a final thought or a last ask for our audience? Anything we can do for you before we say goodbye for now?
Please give me a follow. I am going to be using my DJI mic and Osmo camera to start doing some content literally this week. I'm thinking a little bit more like 1 to 3 minute daily videos that can be sort of like John Oliver type-esque and like just like talking off the dome. We'll see how it evolves. I have been knowing that I need to get on camera for the longest. And I've just sort of like really procrastinated on it. And so I watched a bunch of videos today on how to use the mic and how to use the camera. And I have some people that will be working with me from the team on like, I'm going to be submitting videos into like a Google Drive folder, and they're going to work with me on figuring out the editing piece on like what I need to do to get stuff out there.
Keep us posted. We can help. And we've got a great network of clippers who are also now working on the show, so we'll be sure to get you some good moments from tonight's episode that you guys will be able to use for that too.
That would be awesome. Yeah, it's definitely something I want to do.
And you'll be posting on X. You'll be posting on TikTok. Where are you going to be primarily? Everywhere?
I think I'm going to go for a little everywhere. X, maybe. I feel like crypto Twitter is dying and has been dying a pretty slow death for a while. TikTok will be interesting in the new hands of the owners that they have. We'll see what that looks like. I think
I would genuinely put Facebook on your radar.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah, we can talk more about it, but that is
Okay.
our fastest growing platform, full of people who are completely and utterly ignored by the industry and who are extremely hungry to learn and are upset at the idea that they're just being left behind.
Yeah. And LinkedIn too. Honestly, there's not a lot of great crypto
LinkedIn, for
blockchain
sure.
content. And for what you're trying to do specifically, I don't
Yeah.
know. I think a lot of the platforms require a personal touch. The fact that you're working with a team of editors, they'll be able to give you some feedback, but don't hesitate. Literally send us a message anytime. Hey, watch this video. It's going to TikTok or it's going to Twitter or whatever. For TikTok, the best thing about TikTok is it's even still got the best algorithm. If you've got an emotional moment, if you've got a clear moment of insight that people can relate to, and you're just, it is the best algorithm for scaling the experience of talking to a person through a camera as if you were talking with them directly. It doesn't matter if you got lights, doesn't matter if you got good sound. You can be in the dark and have a moment that people are like, what? And they just want to watch and they share it. You know, YouTube, you got to be a little more polished. LinkedIn, you got to have a tie.
Your entire TikTok like content lesson is literally authenticity. Nothing else matters. It's the connection between you and the person that you're speaking to and making the content for. It's why like podcast clips rarely do well unless you're already ludicrously famous, because it's just this vibe that like, oh, I'm getting recycled content that you created for a different place and you're trying to leverage like my attention here. It doesn't feel as personable. Mark Boyron is a great example, the CEO of Polygon. He posted a video or two, maybe. I think he did a couple of them on his like personal TikTok page. And dude, it was hilarious. Mark, I'm going to put you on blast for just a second, but it was great. I love you. He had like, you know, the camera angle was like up a little bit. He was like in full dad mode, like, you know, holding it a little bit too low and just like, hey, it's Mark, and I just wanted to, and they crushed. They were so good. It was perfect. It was like the perfect way to enter like this particular space and like meet new people and come, you know, like humble and like excited to find a different crowd or whatever. That would be like the gold standard for like a founder, co-founder, CEO entering this platform specifically.
Another one, I'll give you just one more that I would say is like a positive and negative case study, is Jesse Pollock. He famously did those videos that were like, I'm going to give somebody $50 to onboard to Coinbase. And he's like, or come on chain, you know, you want to try on chain? Here's $50. And it was like lots of captions, very edited, man on the street. I'm pretty sure he did well on Instagram, but it just died on TikTok. And Coinbase's account, they posted a video that Brian did. And it was like a, you know, press record and set my phone up and there's a little crackling in about 5 seconds while he looks at the camera and he goes, hey everybody, this is Brian from Coinbase. And that video, it's probably their best performing video. It's the same as the Mark Boyron thing. The TikTok effect, they want to feel like you are just sitting here talking to them. And I think your life story, like med school stories, bio stories, the Kanye story, the Kimcoin story, and especially from like a, you know, like I'm just your friend Azeem who's talking to you maybe in front of this picture of Mr. Rogers, like storytelling and personability on TikTok. TikTok is the best at scaling. Know me, like me, trust me.
Interesting. Okay. We'll talk about this more in Denver too.
We'll talk about it more in Denver.
Because I've been procrastinating from doing this. Mashal tried to get me to do TikTok since 2021. If you go to my TikTok, there's actually a video still there of me from 20. I'd like done some videos, but I left this one up. It's like a Snoop Dogg audio. It's like, I want to thank myself. And it's there from 2021. So she's been trying to get me to do this. And now 5 years later, I'm finally like, okay, it's time.
Better late than never, dude. And you're welcome 100%. Back on our show anytime, man. Anytime.
Would love to.
So
would love to.
You've already stayed longer than we asked you to. So I'm gonna say thank you and good night to you for now. Alex and I are gonna stay with you. Yes, you for just another second longer and do final thoughts. But then Azeem, can we catch up with you if not sooner at Denver?
You guys hit me up, whatever. And then Alex, I don't think I have your Telegram. Maybe let's make a group with the three of us.
Then actually give us 30 more seconds and let's say goodnight here. Alex, give him a quick final thought and we'll say an official goodbye to you in the backstage chat. Alex, can you briefly say goodbye to the folks?
Yeah, of course. I will answer a quick question.
Azeem, Alex always does this to me. I'm like, we got to get out of here. And he's like, wait a second. I'm a teacher. Tell him,
Also-
Alex. Give him a question. You're good.
Here's the bumper sticker on the question. Then we can go into more detail tomorrow morning on the morning show, or find us at community.rumshq.com and we can go more into detail. The question was about turbo tokens on DeFi Carrot specifically. So the bumper sticker is that these are really interesting, and it's actually a really cool token to look at if you're interested in finding different ways that tokens can do stuff other than just be a place where you can gamble on something and hope to God that it goes up and doesn't crash to zero. So these tokens are a tokenized, wrapped, leveraged long position, wherein the specific position is spread out over a number of different platforms that facilitate perps trading. And so you can effectively buy this single token and get very low leverage exposure to a thing that you are long-term bullish on, because of course with leverage, if it goes down in price, this asset decreases in price and you lose money at the same rate that it would go up. But it's really cool. Don't buy it if you don't understand it, but it's a neat thing to like look at, because it's a different kind of token. And DeFi Carrot is like pretty good at making weird tokens that do really cool things. So shout out.
The show is not sponsored by DeFi Carrot, but
It's not.
could be.
Could be.
Turbo.deficarrot.com is the URL if you want to do your homework and
Look at
play
that
along with
gold.
us tomorrow.
Look at that turbo gold just going up.
Dude,
I love it.
is
Love to see
gold,
it.
you know, the new meme coin? I think it could be. Okay, and my final thought will be to say again, please do go follow Azeem. He is at x.com/AzeemK, TikTok.com/@AzeemK_. You can find Miden through him, or just remember Miden.xyz. And of course, for us, the community is community.rumshq.com. We'll be back tomorrow for a final episode this week of the Rise Up Morning Show, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, or where you are whenever you listen. And as always, thank you for being the very best part of what we do. Until next time, my friends, stay safe, be well, everybody.